Desiree?
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order, and we're gonna have First Selectman Smith lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
All right, and I want to thank everyone here and online for getting together. I know there are a lot of conflicting meetings today, so we're gonna try and move through everything as quickly as possible. Town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Town of Bethlehem, First Selectman Buckus.
Here.
Thank you. From the city of Bristol, Mayor Zotto.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Martelli was not able to attend from Cheshire today. First Selectman Lamar from Middlebury.
Here.
Thank you. From the Borough of Naugatuck, Mayor Hess.
Sir,
From the town of Oxford, First Selectman Temple notified us he would not be with us today. From the town of Plymouth, Mayor Sikorsky.
here.
From the town of Prospect, Mayor Chatfield.
Here.
Do we have First Selectman O'Neill online? We're expecting him. Okay. First Selectman Soleo was not able to join us today. Mayor Turnaruski may be stopping in any moment from across the street. Online, I believe we have Town Manager Mark Ramo from Watertown.
Here.
Mayor Dunn from Woket was not able to join us today. And then, from the town of Woodbury, First Selectman Zoltan.
Here.
Okay, so that is a quorum for the CNVMPO, Mr. Chairman. We might as well just get it out of the way now, so we can skip a roll call later. We have from the city of Derby, Mayor DiMartino.
Here.
And from the town of Seymour, we have First Selectwoman Dragonis.
Here.
Thank you all very much. And I'll just note, for the record, we're joined today by, it says Jennifer Brady's Condot, but it's Jennifer Brady FHWA, is it not? Yes. And, yes, just wanted to make sure. Also joined by Katie Hedberg online from Connecticut DOT ADA and Matt Abbott from Field Coordination. And no other guests in the room that I'm aware of. Oh, and Mayor Turnaruski is here. Okay. Oh, we're also joined by, I just noticed Lou Mangini online. I will. Rosa DeLauro's office. Okay, we have a quorum for the MPO.
So I've been instructed we should move expeditiously today, so we will. Is there any public comment in the room or on Zoom? Anyone want to address the card?
No one has asked for time to speak to the MPO online.
All right, then we'll proceed to the approval of minutes.
So move, Chatfield.
Second. All right, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. CNVMPO business, Rich Donovan.
Yes, so we have two requested changes to the 2025 to 2028 tip. The first is project 170 FAREBX. This is a long overdue project to upgrade fare boxes across the CT transit system. The new fare boxes will not only work much more reliably than the existing ones, but will be able to integrate data across the full CT transit system and will finally accept options like tap to pay. The second project is 400 2026 EQ. This is reallocating funds from federal 5307 funds from FTA into ongoing capital and administration for the CT transit system.
Move for both.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any discussion or questions to written? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Rich, public comment?
So we do need to do a separate separate call for public comment on the tip and on the new tip, the 27 to 30 tip. And the air quality conformity determination from March 2026.
All right, so at this time, we will accept public comment on the proposed 27 to 2030 tip and the March 2026 air quality conformity determination. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment?
We similarly did not receive a request for anyone to comment.
No,
Last call for public comment. All right, hearing none, we will proceed to item 3. Is that you, Rich?
We'll have Anthony cover.
Okay, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So at last month's board meeting, presented you all with an overview of the 2027 to 2030 Central Naugatuck Valley MPO TIP document. Since then, we've made a few small changes to the draft without making any actual substantial changes to the TIP projects. We also developed a memo providing a comprehensive overview, list TIP's development, which we'll provide in the meeting packets. Today, I'm just going to briefly provide you with an overview of these small changes. Then we'll recommend that you adopt the TIP. That QR code up there will take you to the, if anyone's curious, we should. Next slide. So, NVCOG really only made 3 changes to our TIP document since we last met in April. We had an appendix section going over the processes for making TIP amendments, making TIP actions and TIP non-actions. We updated section 2 to include information on how NVCOG coordinates with DOT, other project partners on project selection and prioritization. And we added a graphic representation of our air quality conformity outputs and budgeting processes in section 3. These changes were only really made based off of some of the more recent interactions with the Federal Highway Administration. We're largely aimed at improving transparency and clarity on the TIP process with greater TIP and how we actually use the TIP. All right, next slide. So with all that said, unless you have any questions, NVCOG recommends that the board adopt and propose Central Naugatuck Valley MPO Resolution 2026-10, which adopts the draft federal fiscal year 2027-2030 Transportation Improvement Program. Again, so I know if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions? So moved.
Second.
All right, do we have any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Urban Transportation Planning Certification.
Yes, so we have typically done this with the UPWP as well as with the TIP. MPOs across the country are required to self-certify that they are completing the transportation planning process in line with federal guidelines and as well as where applicable state laws. So here at NVCOG, both the CNVMPO and our contributions to the Greater Bridgeport Valley MPO are fully conducted in accordance with Title 23 and Title 49 of the U.S. Code and Code of Regulation, or CFR and USC. And so we are asking at this time that you adopt Resolution 2611, certifying that the transportation planning process is being carried out in full compliance with all applicable regulations.
And you were telling us that we have, right?
We're pretty confident.
All right. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
We got 4 motions. Take 5 seconds.
I'm gonna take that as a real vote of confidence.
We take 1 second. Who's got it?
Second.
Okay, Waterbury. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, air quality conformity determination.
Yes, so anytime we do a new transportation improvement program or a new metropolitan transportation plan, those projects that we're programming get modeled against the full transportation system to determine their air quality impacts. Unfortunately, the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO sits within 3 non-attainment or maintenance areas. And that includes the Greater Connecticut Moderate Ozone Area, the Connecticut portion of the New York, New Jersey, Long Island, and Connecticut Moderate Ozone Area, as well as the PM 2.5 maintenance area. And so if you can go to the next slide, just demonstrating here on these couple of slides, I know they're not the easiest to see. The orange line is the EPA allowable limits on our, the component emissions that make up these non-attainment areas. The blue line is our expected decrease in the release of those emissions based on the transportation system. You know, here in Connecticut, we have actually been pretty well under our actual allowable emissions. Unfortunately, being on the East Coast and being east of a lot of the heavy industrial centers in the Midwest and Western New York, we continue to miss some of these air quality targets despite not necessarily releasing the emissions ourselves. So what you're seeing here, these are the components of ozone within the greater Connecticut ozone non-attainment area. The next slide is the components of ozone within the Connecticut portion of the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut non-attainment area. And then the next slide is the components within the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut PM 2.5 maintenance area. So maintenance is, we did hit those targets. We are now required to maintain them, maintain compliance with that for a number of years. And so, one more slide. We are requesting that the board adopt resolutions 2612, 2613, and 2614, certifying that the air quality conformity determination as modeled by CONDOT in March of 2026 demonstrates acceptable impacts to the various non-attainment and attainment and management areas throughout the region. A single motion can adopt all three resolutions.
So move.
Chair, I
Oh,
just have a
question,
question
yes.
first. Those attainment levels, is that just for transportation related portion or that's total thing?
That is just for transportation related. Yeah, just the impacts of the transportation system.
And what is driving that precipitous decline over the next 20 years?
Yeah, it is predominantly an increase in
EVs?
in electric vehicles as well as the fuel economy and pollution control equipment on vehicles. So, you know, when we look at, we're talking about single digit percentages on release of some of these things on modern cars compared to cars from the 70s. And so it's really that technology or that the change in technology in vehicles that's driving that decrease.
All right, any questions for Rich? All right, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Yeah, we had a motion.
Oh,
You just take a second.
oh, that's right, Mary Chatfield. Mary Chatfield. All right. Convert the motion into a second, okay? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned, and I'll call to order the regular meeting. We've already done roll, right?
We called the roll and the quorum is present for the talk.
We're going fast enough for you?
Moving great.
All right, is there any public comment at the regular meeting of the Council of Governments?
Doesn't appear to be-
No requests?
No requests online.
All right, let's go to the approval of our April minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Michael, financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the full packet did go out in your, the full financial report went out in your agenda packet last week. It is for the month ending March 31st. We are 9 months, or about 75% through the year. Our budget to actual is at about 65%, so we're, you know, just 10%. Mainly just stems from staffing that we've been hiring over this last quarter. So we're not gonna fully converge to 100%, but we're getting there. The net position is $112,000. That will also start to converge to zero and with the transfer from general fund per the budget for the office move. Those expenses aren't gonna start actually trickling in until the end of this month in June. So it's gonna be a little bit before it actually hits the income statement. Outside of that, our cash balance is $3.6 million, and our expense budget actually is at about 60%.
Other than that, there haven't been any unexpected funding cuts that impact the operating budget. I know we discussed, I believe, the NOAA grant last month. And outside of that, there's nothing really significant to report in regards to this budget.
So the NOAA grant is an expected funding cut, is what we're saying.
Well, no, we already got noticed, but it doesn't affect our operations.
Right.
None of the money was flowing to NVCOG for operations. It was all capital.
Just the timing of the project.
Right.
All right, any questions for Michael? All right, can we have a motion to accept his report, a second?
Second.
I'll give it to Mayor Panerewski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion. Rick,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you wanna move?
I understand.
Sure you want to give the floor to the
And
director?
I am usually the one who slows the meeting way down, but I will try and get through this as quickly as possible. On legislative, I'm actually going to skip it unless someone has a specific question about the legislative session. The housing piece will actually get taken up under the community planning section of the meeting. So items from the executive committee, which met on Monday to review my new plan for organizational structure for next year. You all should have.
I think they all stayed at the end of the day.
They're all down here? Okay. Sorry. These are all the org charts. They're tiny and they're hard to see because we don't have good software to run it, but we're doing a couple of highlights for this, and this was adopted for recommendation to this board by the executive board. The big highlights are, for those of you who don't know, Rich Donovan was promoted to fill the vacancy of deputy director, officially 2 weeks ago, I think. So we're very pleased, and I am particularly very pleased to have him working at my side on this. Mark Nielsen has done a great job for a long time.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all.
So made the decision, we've looked at the structure, and with the departure of the community planning director, Rich had made a suggestion that that I've embraced, and the board embraced, which is to consolidate the community planning and transportation planning divisions within the agency into a single working group. He will remain the director of that section. We'll be elevating Kate Tipa to supervising planner and transportation, and Lana Harrison to supervising planner on the planning side. And the new name of the division will be what, Rich?
Integrated mobility and community planning.
Okay, so when you start to see that acronym coming your way, that will be transportation and community planning. So with that, the other organizational change, you'll see all the way on the right at the bottom, there is a new operations manager. We've made an offer to a candidate. We had a third interview and made an offer this week. We think this is going to be a really important person to pick up the slack, really take care of our problems with organization of program and project with finance. So from the back of the house, the planners and the project managers, to the front of the house on accounting, we want to streamline that. This will also be the person who will consolidate all the contracts and agreements, deal with the lawyers, deal with the state agencies, and then review all of our policies and procedures from top to bottom and implement new ones. Now, the person falls below Michael directly on the org chart, but really will report to Michael and Rich, to me through the two of them. So not supervising our senior staff, not reviewing our senior staff, but by a policy directive, will have control of policies and procedures, and will have full authority to implement those above all of those management team. So that's a big change for us as well. Two other changes in title, not necessarily in duties because they've been doing the work for a long time without the title. But Rich Crowther at Mapping Data and Technology will now take on the title of director. And Desiree Blanchard will now take on the title of director in community engagement and communications. I apologize to everyone else because there are some title changes below that, and I can't remember any of them off the top of my head. But there are some people who are more aligning and consolidating their positions so that there's consistency across the board in what we call people and how we pay them. So the organizational chart has been endorsed. The budget I'll move on to, and you can take this as a single action when it comes up. So on the budget document, which also should be in front of you, it is the same budget that you adopted as a preliminary target budget in January, this body adopted, with one major change. We had anticipated getting additional funding, unrestricted funding under the RSG program from the state of Connecticut. Did not come out of the General Assembly that way. We've made two changes. Michael has worked his magic on this, and what we've done is eliminate the $400,000 increase that we were anticipating. We're replacing it with revenue of about $280,000. Is that right? For study, and which comes from transportation side. That'll free up PL funds for other transportation related staffing activities that we pay for from other sources right now, or we would have paid for from RSG. And then we're going to delay about $120,000 of work into next year, which we didn't think the studies would be finished this year anyway. So it balances out. It is, other than that, the budget you adopted with the same revenue targets, it represents a 3% increase in dues to the towns, which amounts to a little less than 6% of our total budget. So the dues for the towns increased by 3%, but it is a little less than 6%. I'll stop there and entertain any questions that Michael and I could answer for the recommendation from your executive.
All right, any questions?
Wait, let you the shoes on. Good. Okay, so if there are no questions, the appropriate step at this point would be to adopt the recommendation of the executive committee and adopt the budget and so.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On to item C, the relocation, really good news and smooth news. We've had, I've had 2 meetings in the last 5 days with the city, 7 days with the city of Waterbury. Things are really on track. We've been through the building. We're exchanging punch lists, and we anticipate having possession of the space to begin our fit up mid-June. So we're gonna be moving sometime in the July-August period. We'll be relocating into the new space. As I told the executive board, if we have trouble here in this building, we have no HVAC, you know, outside temperature should skyrocket, we'll just go to a full remote schedule for those days. And until we can move. We have a few things to do on our side, and in regard to, I should have mentioned this in the budget as well, in regard to the expenses that we anticipated taking from fund balance in FY26, the current year, many of those expenses will not be incurred by July 1st of this year. What we did for next year was not outline or anticipate a specific dollar figure to come from fund balance for the move. We're just gonna put a 0 line item in, and there is a 0 line item in that budget, and we'll just charge against it. It's a negative expenditure anyway, because it's not new revenue. So it's a deficit expenditure, no matter how you slice it. So like I said, the budget will start with 0, and then we'll just charge against the line and it'll come fund balance. Our projection was that we were gonna spend somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 total on the overall move. That's getting our IT, buying some additional furniture and outfitting the space. It's a pretty good deal all around, good lease from the city. And just to remind you all, it's a 20-year lease, 20-year option, and parking. Happy to answer any questions about that if anyone should have any.
Any furniture for sale?
We will have some furniture for sale. We actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So we've offered a lot of computer equipment and peripherals to the towns and to the boards of ed. Have not had a lot of takers. Unfortunately, a lot of our stuff was as old as your stuff. So, but we do have equipment. There will be furniture at the end that will not make the move. And, you know, we're happy to open the doors to the towns. We'll notify you when stuff's available. You can come and take a look.
That wouldn't be the chairs, would it?
These chairs, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pay to dispose of these chairs. But, we are taking the table with us. This table we're taking with us. A few other things. Would ask, we'll probably send out an email on this. We're looking for, rather than entering into a contract ourselves, a new one for e-recycling, for electronics recycling. If any of you have a contract with a firm for electronics recycling, if that's something we could piggyback on, we'll pay the full bulk for whatever the disposal costs are. But we're just looking for a vendor. We'd rather do that than have to enter into a full-blown agreement with someone just to clear out the space. Let's see. I miss anything, Rich, Mike, Rich?
I mean, I think that sums it up.
Good. With no further questions, there is an item that I did not think was gonna make the agenda today. It got tabled on Monday at the executive committee. Is at your discretion. If you don't want to take it up today, it's fine. We have been negotiating a ground lease for our facility at the Valley Transit District in Derby for 10 years with the state of Connecticut. It's taken to get this lease done. They've subdivided the land properly, so it no longer includes the train station or the future bus station. You might have seen the ribbon cutting and the kickoff of that 2 weeks ago as part of the upgrade. So DOT will own and operate the station. The Valley Transit District, which is completely secure at the perimeter of the entire property, is under this lease with the state of Connecticut. We are the custodian of the federal asset, which is the building and equipment and rolling stock and every staplers, everything. The state of Connecticut pays for the operations. They give a direct custody without for the operations, but we own capital equipment. We're the direct federal recipient of that. So we need to have a lease in place. This has been a finding in our last 2 triennial reviews by FTA. We finally have an agreement. It came in last night. So it was on the agenda. I'm strongly recommend that you authorize me to enter into the lease, or I don't know, to me or the chairman. What
was the big issue that took 10 years? I'm gonna say.
Dealing with the state of Connecticut. Everything's an issue when you deal with the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, there was a moratorium at one point on new leases in the Rel administration when we started this. Then there was a new issue with the department not wanting to put the land in a certain condition until we got the letter from FTA saying, hey, you need to have a lease for the land where you have a federal asset. So we started working through that. We thought we had something 2 years ago, and it's been with an assistant attorney general since then, who sent more changes a week ago. And those changes are in the spirit. None of which matter, by the way. Mr. Chappell, just give me a second. None of the changes and conditions really matter. It's a 40-year, $1 lease for a piece of land where everything is stored. All the conditions that are in there, if we sublet it, if we rent it, if we, state wants a piece of the action, that's where all the changes were. But it's a pretty standard lease otherwise.
So you're
add this to the agenda, or you feel comfortable?
It's on the agenda. We put it on the agenda originally when we thought we were gonna have it.
Move to accept.
You have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. Any,
Gotta get your microphone.
any further discussion?
Invisible.
Well, you're good.
We're good, yep, well, I will execute the lease with the state.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're not doing legislative now,
We'll skip it.
so we'll go to Aaron, environmental planning.
And the, interest of time, I'll just refer.
Construction,
First item.
construction. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an update on our Naugatuck River stormwater retrofit assessment. No action is required. I'm happy to announce that NVCOG has been awarded $200,000 through the Long Island Sound Ecosystem Grant from CTD. NVCOG will use this grant to conduct a regional stormwater retrofit assessment in priority remediation areas within Coniston, Watertown, Waterbury, Naugatuck, and Beacon Falls. This assessment will develop a portfolio of green stormwater infrastructure designs that will improve water quality along the Naugatuck River by reducing pollutants carried by stormwater runoff. We are now working with CTD on contracting, and participating municipalities can anticipate NVCOG reaching out shortly to share information about project timelines and paths. Thank you for your support so far, and we are excited to advance water quality in the Naugatuck River watershed and our municipalities. Thank you. Take the trust.
All right, no action. Questions?
I just want to say, I'm really proud of the team that worked on this. I'm proud of getting this grant. We look to do much more of this type of work to protect stormwater runoff and other contaminants getting into the water system and into Long
What do
Island.
they have? They're keeping out large objects or water, what are they doing?
Not large objects, contaminants primarily.
Contaminants.
It's infrastructure that will eventually filter pollutants such as fertilizers, oils, into the Naugatuck River.
Okay,
And this work with MS4.
It will help with your MS4 work. It'll help.
all right, any further, Mayor Chatfield?
Could this include, Prospect and Naugatuck? Or Prospect anyway? I've got a road, Beaver's Dam up a pond up in Prospect, and when we remove the dam, it, sends water all down Route 68 or Prospect Road, all the way down into Naugatuck and down into the river, enters in Union City. And there's been floods, in Naugatuck across from the gymnasium there.
Yeah,
It's 82 Prospect Street. My brother-in-law lives in an apartment house there, and it floods over quite often. I can solve the problem in Prospect by digging up a road and putting in a 36-inch pipe. That's certainly not gonna help people in Naugatuck or anybody down Route 68 going down into Naugatuck. If you're coming up the hill, it's on the right-hand side of the brook, goes all the way down. And there's a bridge in Naugatuck by, what's the bar there, right in Union City?
the Victoria
There
Inn.
you go, crosses right about there and goes down.
Does that-
This happened with all that.
My father used to go there, but I don't.
Aaron can correct me, Mr. Chatfield, but this is runoff from impervious surfaces and from other areas, parking lots, places where contaminants congregate. It's not a flooding,
No,
program.
it starts up at Town Hall, because the Town Hall Park.
Yeah,
And
I'm-
it's up down there.
Aaron, to the extent that we can implement measures where they originate, how far are we going? We're sticking in those towns for now.
So the team sort of prioritized areas that had bad water, poor water quality coming out of catchment areas. So, we're sort of limited by the funding, in this case, for this program, to the ones that we identified. The idea here is that we're gonna, this is something that will get a lot of, internal capacity, sort of capacity building through this, so that we might be able to do more of this in-house, on a case-by-case basis in the future. But there are programs, and it's not really at all about flooding, so, there are other programs, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that specific problem. I think the BRIC program is still open right now, but, as long as it's, well, we can talk, we can talk before.
All right. So ready to move on?
All right.
All right, thank you, Tom. Regional compost grain barrel sale.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. So the reason that this is on your agenda again this month is because we need your help. We've been doing our best to promote the sale on social media and through local newspapers. But of course, you as municipalities have a much stronger direct link to your residents. So we shared a flyer, a press release, and some suggested social media language with you in April. It's getting sent to your inboxes again today. We'd really appreciate if you could share that through your communication channels. And this is why it matters. Each composter that we sell is someone who's diverting waste from your municipal waste infrastructure, taking that strain off of you. The same when it comes to the rain barrels and conserving your water resources. So this is our little guerrilla grassroots way to try to take some strain off of your municipal infrastructure. Just a quick refresher, the way this works is that any residents can order backyard composters, rain barrels, and accessories through our online store between now and June 11th. And then pickup will occur on June 13th at the Seymour Senior Center, 9 to 11, or Thomaston High School from 1 to 3. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
How successful was the last one when you did it? You were
That's such a great question. We started the sale maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. We had big success the first time, sold several hundred units of each. And we've actually had declining numbers since then. So we took last year off. And we are trying again this year. We hoped that it would help with a bit of the market saturation. But after this sale, we are going to go back, look at the numbers, and see if it makes sense for us to continue this going forward.
I'm old.
Well, it goes without saying, we lose money on each one, but we make it up in volume, so.
All right, thank you, Christine.
State of Connecticut. And ECS.
Sustainable Connecticut Fellow Reminder.
Okay, quickest update of the meeting. Just reminding you, we'll have a fellow here in 2 weeks who can assist either with obtaining sustainable CT certification or even your own municipal projects. So please give your land use officers a heads up and or your sustainability committees. And when Grace arrives in a couple of weeks and reaches out to you via email, she would greatly appreciate a response, even if it's we're not interested this year. If you have any questions about sustainable CT, come find me and I'm very happy to talk.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Christine. Ricardo, Brownfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to quickly give a highlight on 2 projects that are completed. 281 Canal Street, Shelton. This project received a $750,000 loan to the developers. Happy to announce the project has been completed. Ribbon cutting is scheduled for May 29th, 10 a.m. at 281 Canal Street, Shelton. Just for a reminder, 129 market rate apartments have been created on site. Great project. Developer has closed out their loan obligations, paid the loans already, and yeah, that project is complete. The next one is 300 Broad Street, Bristol. That project was $3.74 million of DC funding. The project has been completed. Happy to announce that 150,000 square feet of commercial industrial space, has been abated, cleaned up. We are working with the state of Connecticut, DC's department to close out the award requirements, close out documents for the project, submitting the final invoices. We will be reaching out to the city as well as state officials to schedule a ribbon cutting sidewalk end of summer. Just want to let you guys know. Have to answer any questions if there are any. If not,
Are there any prospective takers on the industrial space?
according to the developer, yes. They're working on, I think it's warehouse space for one of them. They're some other.
But it's not industrial use.
Industrial, they're still working on stuff, and mayor is.
Yeah, so Trump has taken the largest section. It's a 3-section building. So they're currently in Farmington. They're extending operations into the space. There's a second confidential industrial use for the middle section, and then the front section is in the process of being renovated.
Excellent.
All right, Any further questions? All right, Inez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's no action needed for this item. We are happy to share that we have an open solicitation for brownfield assessment projects. Eligible applicants include municipalities, nonprofits, and other private entities that can show municipal support for their proposed projects. Eligible activities under this funding are phase 1, 2, and 3 environmental assessments, hazardous building material analyses, cleanup planning, and other remedial action planning. You do not need to own the site to apply for funding, which is an important note. You just need to be able to showcase that the owner is willing to provide access to the site for the proposed activities. And the funding maximum request for the solicitation is $75,000, and a 10% match is required on awarded funds. Once funds are awarded, our team, oversees the entirety of the project, including the procurement and oversight of the licensed environmental professional. And then at the end of the project, we can deliver the finalized reports to you and will help you determine the best next steps for the site. If you're interested in applying, please feel free to reach out to us after this meeting or anytime that works for you. We're hoping to identify all potential projects within the coming weeks ahead of convening the RVP Executive Board in early July for project selection. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them or talk with you after this meeting.
All right, questions for Inez?
Just also a heads up, in case any of you get a letter asking for support from a nonprofit or a group in your town, and we haven't already contacted you asking for one, we should talk. We don't do any work in your community for anyone unless we get a sign off from the municipal CEO. We need to know that the town supports the activity.
The match of $7,500, I guess it is. Does it come from the municipality or does it come from the property owner? Or does it not matter?
That would come from the applicant. So
Does it come from the applicant?
It doesn't matter.
So if it's a nonprofit that's requesting the assistance, they would be tasked with paying that 10% match, not the municipality. And that's of course only if you're getting an express project.
And the end result of the property doesn't matter at this point for this analysis. Okay.
And I would just like to note to your point that the $7,500 would only be if you were awarded $75,000. So if you only wanted to get a phase 1 environmental assessment that cost $4,000, the match would only be $400.
If the phase 1 recommended a phase 2, does it then build on as you go, or do you get one and done?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say on average, we spend $40,000 to $60,000 on a phase 1, phase 2.
Yeah. And it really depends on what the scope of work is, because I've even seen remediation action plans included for that price.
All right. Last call for questions. All right, transportation planning, Rich.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Joanna to talk about ADA transition plans.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for sharing. Thanks, Rich. Today I'm going to be giving you some information about the CNVMPO Municipal Assistance Program for ADA compliance. Now, no action is needed, and the information that I'm presenting to you today is summarized in the memo, which was included in the. So first off, a refresher about the ADA requirement, which was first enacted in 1990. Title II, which applies to public entities of the Americans with Disabilities Act, requires all public agencies, regardless of size, to ensure that their services, programs, and activities are accessible to persons with disabilities. Now, compliance includes doing a self-evaluation of building facilities, rights of way facilities, and communications to identify any accessibility obstacles or issues that need to be addressed. Now, these initial self-evaluations were due in 1992. Now, in addition, the public entities with 50 or more employees are required to designate an ADA coordinator, establish a grievance procedure, establish a transition plan, talking about what we're talking about today, outlining steps about ADA compliance, and then also monitor that plan for the implementation and updates as needed. Now, if you were in any doubt, all 19 NVCOG municipalities employ 50 or more people, and each is required to draft the transition plan. So aside from this legal requirement, achieving ADA compliance is important because it allows people with disabilities to fully participate in city life. Now, when your town takes steps to provide and maintain accessibility, it also helps your town to reduce the potential liability associated with the lack of ADA compliance. So now, to help our towns with this ADA compliance, the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation is partnering with regional councils of governments across the state through a new ADA Title II Municipal Support Services program. NVCOG was selected as the pilot project for this program, partly because of the high quality of our regional data and the strength of our mapping department, and the thanks to Rich, Tim, and Danny for all the hard work that they've done doing thus far.
You made us say that.
So with NVCOG involvement, Connecticut DOT has contracted a consultant for Beta Group to review the pedestrian facilities within public right of way along state and local roads to ensure compliance with ADA transition plan and self-evaluation requirements. So next slide, and I am very happy to introduce Katie Hedberg, and she is the CTD DOT ADA coordinator who is working with NVCOG, and she'll be also working with the towns. She's going to briefly describe the municipal services offered through the Connecticut DOT and what's included in the ADA transition plans. Take it away, Katie.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm really excited that we're finally kicking off on this project. This was an effort we started in 2022 when our DOT was doing an update to its transition plan. I joined the ADA group in 2022 in July. So it's definitely been a passion project and an opportunity that we get to work with all of you to help. For the transition plan requirement, like Joanna said, it is a ADA requirement. It involves identifying all the physical barriers for our plan and the project that we'll be working on with you. It'll be only looking at the public right of way. For our state plan, it included rail facilities, our rest areas, transit facilities, our highway administrative buildings, some EV chargers, our ferry service, service plazas. Those won't be included in yours, but the sidewalk, multi-use trails, bus stops, park and ride, or not park and rides, curb ramps, those will be included. And then for the crosswalks and on-street parking, those won't have an inventory collected, but there will be information in the plans that sort of talk about the procedures if a complaint arises or if you're putting in a new area for on-street parking or a new crosswalk. We recognize with the plans, the transition plans, there's a lot of existing physical constraints with steep slopes, built facilities with buildings, that do impact meeting compliance. So the plans really help identify, those items and policies on how you are staying up to date. How we got here was a survey that was done on the next slide for when we were doing our plans to see what compliance efforts were for the towns. We did reach out to the Department of Labor just to identify how many employees everyone had across the state. For the 50 employee status, this is not only people in town hall, it includes your public works, your police, fire, schools. It also includes regional schools if if some of the budget goes towards that. So only in Connecticut, there's 2 municipalities at the time who actually had under 50. For this, there was statewide confusion for how many, because there was the expectation it was only in town hall. But overwhelmingly everyone needed support. So this is why the program is starting off on a regional basis. The survey also identified help with funding for getting these plans started, training requirements, and just overall assistance with the inspections. So with our plan, there is built-in education and outreach along with videos that'll help. So as you get new staff, there will be some sort of training material that you can refer back to. Um, and then I think on the next slide, this sort of goes into the project phase. So for NVCOG, it's estimated to be 18 months. We are going to be having a regional kickoff meeting that the consultant will come to and explain more about the project, some timelines. We are offering the regional kickoff meeting to be offered twice. It'll be the same content, but just to give the maximum attendance that we could. It'll also be in person and hybrid, and anyone from the community or your, municipal staff can go. So we recognize with ADA, sometimes you have multiple people involved with your ADA coordinator, your CEO. Sometimes people might have legal involved or your engineering and planning groups. And the consultant's going to help with, just to give an idea for the inspections, it'll be GIS based, but also providing spreadsheets for those who don't have built-in GIS capabilities. NVCOG is going to be helping coordinate the GIS. And I'll turn it back over to Joanna for the next steps.
Yeah, so thank you, Katie. And as Katie mentioned, there is going to be a kickoff, but before we have that kickoff, what we need to know from your towns is you have a commissioner committee for people with disabilities, and who is your town ADA coordinator? And I'm going to be reaching out with an email later today to yourselves and to your public works and everyone that we had contacts with a few years ago. Obviously, a lot of administrations have changed, so we want to update that information. Make sure everyone who needs to be at that table is going to be at that table. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for your attention. Happy to answer some questions, or Katie's still on the line too, or after.
All right, any questions? All right. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, community planning. Is this on our new flow chart?
Yeah.
Good morning. Okay, so first up, hiring updates. I am very pleased to announce that we have hired 2 new senior planners in community planning. Tucker Beckett will be joining us as our senior community planner, just coming over from Westcott. He'll be working on local POCDs, housing and land use technical assistance, maybe a little bit on the regional plan operation as well. And then we've also hired Sophie Mekadara. She is our new senior housing planner. She will be leading the effort on developing the regional housing growth plan that's required under PA 2021. So that will be a big lift. Tucker is starting this month. Sophie will be joining us in June, although she is moving to Connecticut, so she'll be starting remotely, and then she'll be joining us in person in August. So we're very excited to add these people to our team and to increase our capacity. Legislative assistance, I'll start with PA 25-1. We've started receiving inquiries from some of your land use administrators about the kind of assistance we can provide with implementing that legislation. Most folks have been reaching out asking if we can provide model regulations. At this time, because of our capacity, NVCOG is not able to provide model regulations. However, we are able to help in some other ways. We can present on the legislation to your planning and zoning commissions. We can talk with your land use administrators or review about the legislation. We can bounce around ideas, talk through what your ideas are for implementation in your zoning regulations. WestCOG has also gone through the process of approving firms. If you want to bring them on as consultants to look at your regulations, you can piggyback off of that as long as it's in compliance with your own, what's the word?
Procurement.
Procurement, there it is, thank you. And then this is at the end of the process, but when you do update your zoning regulations, those will be coming to us for referral, so we will be reviewing those at the end, but happy to help with the process before then. Fine. Okay, so in terms of legislation, housing related legislation from the session that just ended, most of the housing related legislation did not pass. That includes the majority roundtable that we were sort of expecting to be a fix for PA 25-1 that also did not pass. However, there was a fix that was included in another bill in HB 5521. This clarifies an element in PA 25-1 about the 16 or fewer dwelling units that you can implement parking minimums for. So from the bill, it says you can adopt in a conservation and traffic mitigation district a minimum number of off-street motor vehicle parking spaces for residential development that contains 16 or fewer dwelling units. In the original legislation, there was some confusion if it went just under 16 or if that included 16. So this new legislation does clarify 16 or fewer, specifically for conservation and traffic mitigation districts, if you choose to establish one of those. You can establish a couple of them. So that's it for me. Any questions?
I have a question. Refresh my recollection. If you're a town that's joined the CMDA and through them, you're revising your zoning regulations, how does that impact your the mandate of compliance with everything else?
So I'm gonna lean on Lana for this, but I believe the CMDA affiliation had to do, and Nicole, she's the one who actually knows, had to do with if you were creating a transit oriented district under the housing law. So yeah, you're in good shape there if you're part of that and you're going in that direction.
Good shape means compliance.
Well, it depends on what OPM ultimately says. You know, a lot of this is open to interpretation still.
I interpret that I comply.
Well, so.
By opting in.
By opting in.
Yeah, well done.
There's a strong case to be made for that point. I think that, you know, unfortunately, most of, you know, the majority leaders roundtable bill, which did address a whole bunch of these issues and clarified a whole bunch of them, did not get through the Senate. So these two provisions were stuck into the bill for sterile cultivars. That's it. It was an environmental bill that they tagged it on to in the Senate to get these two provisions through. The one thing I'll say is we have not heard a lot. Lana's been in touch and Nicole have been in contact with the Yorktown development folks. We have not heard a lot of deep concern about meeting the July 1st deadline, but I can imagine there are towns where someone hasn't been thinking about this or hasn't been dealing with it, and it'll come as a surprise. There also is an opinion floating around. There's a couple of things going on. The governor's office has indicated they're going to try and do some sort of executive administrative fix in the short term to extend the deadline. Not sure if they can do it or if they have the power to do it. That was the concern. But there's an opinion floating around that Betsy Guerra, for those of you who are at cost, had forwarded this idea from a land use attorney that basically says the Zoning Enabling Act, which gives you the power to adopt your own zoning in a home rule state, specifically says that no one can apply for something if it's not in your regulation. If it's not addressed in your regulation. Now, the law says you have to adopt the regulation by July 1st to cover yourself or to protect against it. But if under the Enabling Act, if it's not in your regulation, technically, no one can make an application. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. And the COG directors have been meeting with CCM and cost and everyone else trying to figure out a strategy here.
So what is a conservation and traffic mitigation district?
God only knows. You're allowed to set parking conditions in certain districts in your town. You can only have 2 or 3.
Two can only cover a certain percentage of the total land that you have very well, but it can be contiguous, so you can combine them in order to create a larger district.
So I would say with all the square mileage you have in your town, and if you went in to go into your downtown and have certain parking requirements that bypass this requirement for parking with 16 or fewer units, you could do that because you're.
So even developers that I talk to are confused as to how you build a building without parking.
Well,
We don't have
you
a
still can.
downtown.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have a downtown.
No.
And, you can, so let's jump to just to review the summary review aspect of this. So you still control your zoning under summary review. Just because it's a summary review, just means you can't debate and negotiate with them. But if you set your standards, and this is what we're concerned about the July 1 date, we would like recommend that every town look at your regulations that will be in play under summary review and make sure that you have set conditions that you make that summary review judgment based upon. You still have that flexibility in your town. I'm always happy when Lana's nodding her head yes that I'm correct. But
You can still set like frontage, rear yard setbacks, impervious pavement requirements, that can still all be set by you.
But you need to have them in place as criteria before July 1st in order for you to exercise that power. So it's, we're all, this is the proverbial, flying a plane as it's being assembled, but,
Well, I suppose that municipalities could put something in place and then modify it as time goes on.
we also expect to see some towns just try to, adopt moratoria. In the short term, you have the power under the zoning enabling act to adopt short-term moratoriums.
What is that short term?
We've seen them for 830G related type things for
4 years?
we've seen multiple years.
Mark, are you in the CMDA?
I have no idea.
Dave, you're not working with David Corus.
Danny Gorse, no?
David Corus.
David Gorse, no.
So it's, we don't have to file our regional housing plan until 2029. So we're gonna make a quick pivot. Lana's gonna make a quick pivot. Once we finish the regional plan of conservation and development, we're gonna be working right on the regional housing plan. We'll have the benefit of being able to look at the plans adopted by the towns that are required to the regions that are required to do theirs earlier. But we have our own ideas. We've discussed with this body before about taking a true regional approach to meeting the targets. We've also been meeting with OPM about how the target setting is to be done. They have to set 10-year targets. We have to adopt 5-year goals. Somewhere between the two of those, units are going to get assigned, but they're just goals for the towns. Happy to answer any other questions.
You can't establish a goal with the 830G.
No.
It's mathematically impossible.
Yeah, the changes to 830G died in Majority Leader Rojas's bill. It did not make it through the Senate over. The Senate wanted the bill prohibiting private equity firms from buying up apartment buildings. And the House didn't want it, or vice versa. I don't even know. It might have been the other way around. So the Senate held the big housing bill and didn't pass it because the House didn't move on the private equity bill. It was all on the Democratic side.
Always is.
Yeah. So, Yep, other than that, 830G changes were not adopted in this, it's never gonna change. They were trying to work with the denominator, so that you got credit for creating units, you didn't constantly, you know, it wasn't a chasing your tail thing, which it is now. If you increase the number of units, you increase the number of affordable units, you're increasing the ratio on both sides, you can't get to 10%.
Can't get there.
So you can't get there. Not unless you just build all affordable units in your town and if you look at average building, 5-10 years worth of construction in most towns would have to be exclusively affordable in order to move that number at all.
Well, and some of these developers are getting, an exemption to move the affordability requirement to 7 years, 7 years or 11 years. It's crazy.
There are a number of things, encourage towns, if you have, public housing projects, still, or housing authorities who have control over units, you know, many of these things were built, despite popular belief, the last section of development in the state of Connecticut was built in 1983. But what it means is they're coming up on the end of their affordability period. So those deed restricted units that exist with an affordability restriction, if you can work with your housing authorities or local developers to renew those restrictions, that will help you to keep your count up on affordability centers.
4 years. We're past that now.
Well, it depends on exactly when they got built, but yeah. I'm gonna say in the last section 8, there are others with restrictions, what is it, the federal housing loan program, mortgages count as those, or as part of the affordable units, because of the length of the 30-year mortgage. So, it's not easy, and
it's murky.
It's murky, and you can't get, if you're not at 10%, it's almost impossible to achieve 10%.
Not impossible.
Almost, I said. But we actually have cities though who are above 10% and have seen a lot of development, and their percentage is sliding. You know, we had towns that started off at 16%. I know one started 16% and is only at 11 now. Because of the new development ratio is market rate.
All right, I don't think we're gonna solve this morning, so, let's go to municipal affairs. Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple quick notes on emergency management. The Connecticut Military Department is offering a series of no-cost cybersecurity and resilience workshops. Municipalities are eligible, as are boards of education and nonprofits. If you are interested, you will see an email on the screen for Connor Finch. I encourage you to copy that down and contact Connor. Feel free to CC me. And then also the flood mitigation assistance program. One catch to this, these are for NFIP, National Flood Insurance, eligible properties only, this program. But there will be an informational meeting on Tuesday, from 1 to 2, and you can refer to an email that you will receive from Chris Bernier on the 12th. Chris unfortunately could not join us today, but he did want me to forward these 2 items to you. That's all I have for emergency management.
Okay.
Keep going, Drew.
EDD.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Naugatuck Valley Corridor Economic Development District, as you all have received an email earlier this week, we did publish the SEDS for 30-day public comment. The good news is we have already received a few public comments, which is great. And thank you to Mayor Pernaruski for yesterday's speech, because you gave us some content you probably didn't know you did, but gave us some additional content, which I'd love to add to the report from some of the great things that are happening in Waterbury. But encourage you all to scan the QR code, but that information also is very detailed, linked in that email that I sent you all earlier this week. Our staff worked really hard on this over the last, we took over the EDD from Shelton Economic Development Corp in July. There's been a lot of meetings, a lot of public engagement. The public engagement from the Regional Plan of Conservation and Development has also informed this plan. So we encourage you and your staff and residents to comment, please, because we'd love to have a plan be really comprehensive and guide us over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Is there anyone that has a compelling topic to bring up at round table? Hearing none, we will go to item 12. Mayor Paul?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?